Good morning, everybody. Father Leo here again on this Sunday morning, 21st Sunday of Ordinary Time. And what I'm looking at today is the Scriptures and kind of how I connect something about the Scriptures with what is happening in our world today. But again, I don't see the word world anymore. It's in our universe. It used to be one time we'd say, what's happening next door? What's happening in our country? What's happening on planet Earth? But now we're saying, what's happening in the universe? The universe. The universe with all its galaxies. And even mathematicians are saying there are the multiverses. Yes, we know there is one, the universe, but they're saying there's multiverses. And that boggles the mind to think there's so much out there and so far beyond any kind of human comprehension. Having said that, there was a little line in today's gospel that kind of tickled my fancy. I'm going to let it tickle your fancy, if you will. It says that there will be Jesus, and it talks about it here, and it has the line, there will be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. Weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, remind me of the story of the preacher he wanted to get his congregation to straighten up and fly right. He thought they were not really being good enough. He thought a bit of fear. So he kept repeating that name, and he was thundering and pounding the pulpit saying, yes, yes, from one end of heaven to the other, there will be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth, and you'll hear those teeth being gnashed from one end of heaven to the other. And in the front pew stood Mrs. O'Malley. And suddenly poor Mrs. O'Malley stood up and said, Preacher, preacher, what will I ever do? And the preacher said, Miss O'Malley, what's the problem? She said, there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Preacher, I don't have any teeth. Preacher paused and said, Miss O'Malley, don't you worry. You just show up, teeth will be supplied. I thought that was kind of funny. I hope you laughed at it. Anyway, let's get back to being serious here for a minute. So what we're talking about then is planet Earth. Yes, we can look at the Earth and seeing that it's in trouble. Climate warming is real. Climate warming is real. And planet Earth is real. And we can see that. And when we look at pictures of planet Earth, we can see pictures of a beautiful, I think of the planet Earth picture that was taken from space, the beautiful blue planet. So on the one hand, it's a beautiful blue planet from a distance, but if you get up close, it's not so beautiful. There's drought. Rivers and lakes are simply drying up. And that's a fact. Wildfires are burning up trees and the habitat of animals, and animals are being caught in the fire. There is air pollution, people finding it difficult to breathe. There are pandemics. Now, we can say, well, they're just natural phenomenon, nature doing its thing. Or we can look with different kind of eyes, the third eye or new eyes, and we realize that all of those things and many more like them are the Earth's language. The Earth's language. Earth can speak a language just as well as you and I can. And the problem is we don't really understand Earth's language. We're hard enough understanding human language, but then when you got Earth language, we really haven't attributed it as language, but it is. Mother Earth. Mother Earth is real. Mother Earth is alive. For a long time, it was treated as just a lump of clay. It was just matter. But now, with the new cosmology and quantum physics, we're able to know that the Earth is vibrant and alive, filled with energy. And that is so obvious if we look at it. the energy of the earth, which produces all the grass and the trees and the fruit and the vegetables and the food we eat. It's all alive. The earth is vibrant and alive. But the earth is suffering. The earth is suffering. And as a result of that, she's crying out in her pain, saying to the people of the earth, I'm hurting. I'm hurting. Why don't you do something for me? Why don't you ease my pain? And we see that, I think it was Desjardins that coined the word, I get it here, panentheism. Panentheism. And by panentheism, what he was saying is, he was accused of saying trees were God. He said no. He threw an E-N in there, panentheism. God is within, and something of God dwells within creation, within all of creation. And so God is alive, creation is alive. And as I mentioned, the thing like droughts and fires and air, they're all God's language, telling us earth is in pain and earth is suffering. Now with the new webcam, with the Hubble telescope, scientists were able to look a long way back towards the beginning and gained a lot of information. And one of the things they came out with very early on was that God was embodied in all of creation. God was embodied in all of creation. That spirit and matter came together at the Big Bang, and that God is embodied in all of creation. And that doesn't mean just the earth. That means all the stars, the moon, the sun, all of that, all of what makes up our galaxy. It's all somehow a manifestation, an expression of the divine, of God. And all is sacred. All is sacred. And with the new Webb telescope, they've even able to see farther back into space than the Hubble telescope could. And there they're seeing a very real way of how the Spirit, the very Spirit of God, somehow is manifested in that particular experience of the scientists. We have, for example, at Matthew Fox quotes the mystic Meister Eckhart. And Meister Eckhart, now it's interesting. The mystics saw a lot of things about creation hundreds of years before the telescopes. And somehow they had that mystical experience. And so Master Eckhart was able to write that the human spirit storms the firmament and scales the heavens until it reaches the spirit that drives the heavens. As a result of heaven's revolution, everything in the world flourishes and bursts into leaf. The spirit, however, is not satisfied. It continues to nurture growth and development on planet Earth. And so Master Eckhart really attached it, the spirit to creation, and how photosynthesis, how light, working with plants, brought fruit, light and life on planet Earth. So there is that connection between spirit and earth. And the spirit indeed is one aspect of the body of God. The body of God. And but this is something we have to see. The scientists are telling all of this. The problem is that Christianity has not been open to it. For too long, Christianity saw the universe as static. In other words, the creation story, taken literally. God created everything in 6 days and then rested. So, and then it operated like a machine. No life in itself, but it acted like a machine. Static, unmoving. But then the mystics, and now with our new telescopes, they can easily see that that's all wrong. The new cosmology is an important part of our faith journey, the new cosmology, wherein we're able to know and to see that we live in a universe that is dynamic and alive. It is energy in its various shapes and forms. The matter is energy camouflaged as matter, but it's all part of energy. God is energy. There's a lot of discussion. What name can I give God? The reality is, I guess, scientists are telling you that God is energy. Our mystics tell us that God is energy. Problem is, nobody has told leaders of religion, I guess, that God is energy, powerful energy, the energy of the Spirit. Our indigenous people talk about the Great Spirit. The Great Spirit. And they have that from the Spirit in their lives through creation spirituality, as we call it. That nature has taught them. They've been taught by nature of all of this creation spirituality. And so I think that's the big thing we're going to have to be learning in our journey, is to learn from the indigenous people. You remember when the settlers came to this part of the world, they brought Christianity with them to make the indigenous people Christians. You can never imagine the different kind of world it would have been if the settlers had allowed the native people to transmit their spirituality to the settlers. What a different country it would be today. Quite a different country if the spirituality of the indigenous people, because this is coming back. One of my favorite authors, Matthew Fox, is bringing back creation spirituality in a big way. And it's making sense. It's making a lot of sense to me anyway. And it helps us to understand the sacredness, the holiness, and that all of creation is vibrant with life. And so planet Earth is suffering and crying out through her language. And keep in mind, when planet Earth suffers, God suffers. And when the earth is healed, God is healing. And as the universe expands, God is expanding. Evolution is alive and well and working well. And so there's a lot to be said for this, I think. And what I want to leave with you today is very simple. Learn the language of creation. Learn the language of creation. Look at creation with the eyes, open eyes of faith, with a third eye or with new eyes, and see the presence of the divine, the work of the Great Spirit, and then hold that everything is sacred. The very earth we walk on is sacred. And whatever we do in this time of climate warming, the melting of the ice cap, and the violence being done to the earth, whatever we do to alleviate and diminish the suffering of the earth, and of course the earth includes all of life on the earth, whatever we do to diminish that suffering, we're diminishing the suffering of God. They go hand in hand because they're all one. And again, we go back to Julian of Norwich, who coined the word oneness. All is oneness. And if we really grasp that concept, then we know why we can say what we are saying about the holiness and sacredness of all creation. God bless.